underrated producers of all time, Season 2, Episode 1. If you know anything about Texas rap, you know that Texas rap has always had a very distinctive, unique sound. I once had a co-worker who was from Detroit in a conversation about Texas rap say, "Man, y'all music sound like it's from outer space." Not in a bad way, but it's different. The way y'all rap, the way y'all beats sound, is just different. Obviously, DJ Screw is a big part of that, not to mention DJ Daryl Scott. But from a standpoint of musicality, instrumentation, composition, the actual music production, Texas is known for big, thick bass lines, trunk-rattling drums, guitars, organs, really any instrument that would accompany the aforementioned. When you listen to Scarface, UGK, or Devin the Dude, although each having their own unique style, they all have a certain vibe and mood that is unmistakable. Pimp C will refer to this as country rap tunes. The style will go on to be the soundscape to some of the biggest pioneers in Texas and the South. We already covered Pimp as well as N.O. Joe in our first 2 episodes, and for good reason. But there's no way we could speak about Texas hip-hop production from a musical standpoint and pay homage to the most underrated producers without mentioning a musical genius, the legendary Mike Dean. Mike Dean was born and raised in Houston, Texas. He was always a musical prodigy, learning to play the piano and saxophone at 8 or 9 years old, as well as his siblings. His piano teacher not only taught him how to read music, but also took him to music competitions where he would always win. Growing up, Mike Dean was big into classic and southern rock with groups like Pink Floyd, Bad Company, Black Sabbath, 38 Special, Leonard Skinner, and Cream. As a teen, he played in a few different bands where he would learn about recording and overdubbing. He always knew one day he would be a professional musician. Coming out of high school, Mike had scholarships to big music schools on the East Coast, but he would turn them down after receiving an offer to go on tour playing for the one and only Selena, R.I.P., an offer he couldn't refuse.
You know, Selena was the first professional recordings I did. Besides, before that I did stuff for 700 Club and Christian stuff. And back in Freeport, there was a music store, Clyde's Music. The owner of the music store was like, "Mike, you should meet this guy Abraham. He's got a daughter who sings." And they were just singing in Mexican restaurants at the time. So I started working with them, ended up recording her first records. And the first time she was on the radio, it was a production I did with her brother.
During that 3 to 4 year period, not only was Mike exposed to different styles of playing music, but upon leaving, he would end up with several pieces of new equipment. Mike Dean's hip-hop career began as part of a Houston group called Def Squad, producing 2 albums before getting his first gig as a sound engineer and in-house session musician for Rap-A-Lot Records. Peter Reardon, who was an artist, producer, and manufacturer of professional audio equipment, just so happened to be the in-house engineer for Rap-A-Lot and the Ghetto Boys. Mike Dean would hire Peter Reardon to mix the Odd Squad's album, Fat Enough for Everybody, featuring the young Devin the Dude. This would lead to Peter telling Jay Prince about Mike, which led to Jay Prince putting Mike on a weekly salary and in the studio where he could learn.
I remember it was on my birthday in 1992. I went to the office up on Jones Road, met Jay. We hit it off really good. So I'm gonna give you a chance, So he put me on salary. I never forget, it was $1,600 a month. Put me on salary, put me in the studio. I didn't know how to engineer. I could just play. Threw me in the studio, I just started doing it,
Around that same time, N.O. Joe had come to Rap-A-Lot and was working with Scarface. The two of them would work studio sessions together, with Joe as the producer and Mike as the engineer. Joe, seeing that Mike could play a few instruments, would have him play on multiple records. During these sessions, Mike would really start producing, with Joe showing him how to work drum machines like the MPC. They would end up doing Scarface's 1993 classic, The World Is Yours, which went #1, and the rest is history.
Joe taught me a lot about producing too, just about sounds and, Because he had worked in a bunch of big studios in New York, you know, and already had a publishing deal, you know, kind of, you know, knew more about mixing than we did. You could hear our mixes, like if you listen to like Let Me Roll, that's how we used to mix. It sounded like
hella muddy. Yeah.
Pillow over it. But people used to say that was our sound. I'm like, no, I don't want it to be the muddy sound. I want to make that shit sound like the radio, you know.
He would also go on to work with greats such as the Ghetto Boys, Do or Die, the Dog Pound, Yuck Mouth, Sibo, Nate Dogg, R.I.P., Tech 9, UGK, Zero, Devin the Dude, the Outlaws, and even the late great Tupac, R.I.P.
We were at my studio where I worked at, the Enterprise in L.A., and Tupac came. It was when I first met him. And, you know, we worked on, I worked on like 3 beats for him and Face. They wrote a bunch of lyrics, and then I turned around and they were gone. And they went over to the other place
No shit.
and recorded Smile. I was pissed, you know, I was like, fuck, I didn't get to record with Pac. Where Pac gave me like ½ ounce of weed. He was like, you Mike Dean? I was like, yeah. He said, you play the piano, right? He said, play some sad shit. And I started making sad piano beats. And he threw me ½ ounce on my keyboard. Never forget, I was worried about working with him because I heard he didn't really fuck with white people a lot. He was hella cool, you know. He didn't snap. You know, I thought he was gonna, you know, black out on me or something, you know. He was a really, really nice guy.
Mike Dean would go on to produce, mix, and master for several well-known acts throughout the industry. Most notably, his work with Kanye West. Mike Dean did mixing on Kanye's first 2 albums, The College Dropout and Late Registration, and also contributed as a producer on Graduation, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, Yeezus, The Life of Pablo, Ye, and Donda, as well as co-producing with Ye on Watch the Throne with Jay-Z. Despite a fallout in 2022, Mike is credited on the song Back to Me, featuring Freddie Gibbs from the Vultures 1 album.
Kanye was the coldest, like, chopping samples, come on.
That's when y'all met at that time.
He still is the coldest, but yeah. When it comes to chopping samples, you can't fuck with that guy. I remember when I first met him, I was like, you know, you ever need me to play some keyboards or, you know, do some production on your shit? He said, I do all the producing. You know what I mean? Like, you know, when he made the solo beats, you know. And eventually, you know, over 4 or 5 albums, I eventually turned into his co-producer, you know. I mastered Through the Wire, all in my house in Cyprus. He used to pull up for a day. He'd fly down here and work for me for like 12 hours, fly back to New York.
He's also had a well-known working relationship with Travis Scott, producing on every one of Scott's projects since 2013, not to mention serving as a live guitarist and keyboardist for Travis Scott and Kanye, headlining festivals like the Watch the Throne Tour, the Yeezus Tour, Travis Scott's Bird's Eye View Tour, and the Astro World Tour. He's also done several collaborations and gone on tour with The Weeknd. Aside from his time in Rap-A-Lot, working with Gangsta Nip, Fifth Ward Boys, Big Mello, R.I.P., Big Mike, Mr. 3-2, R.I.P., and more, he's also worked with the likes of XXX Tentacion, R.I.P., Drake, E40, Shine, Juvenile, Mike Jones, 2 Chainz, The Migos, Ty Dolla $ign, Future, and many more. Not to mention all the non-rap artists he's worked with like Frank Ocean, Beyonce, Madonna, Christina Aguilera, Selena Gomez, Tiana Taylor, and the list goes on. He's even collaborated with Metro Boomin multiple times on the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse soundtrack, and most recently on Future and Metro's We Don't Trust You and We Still Don't Trust You. You name him, he's worked with him. Talk about a storied career. Mike Dean has been nominated for and won several Grammys as an engineer, producer, and songwriter, rightfully so. In 2017, he launched his own record label called MWA. Quiet as kept, Mike Dean still releases music to this day.
To this day!
Dropping his own series of instrumental albums called 420, 422, Smoke State 42222, 423, which is co-produced by The Weeknd, and most recently, 424. He also released a live album in 2021 called Echoplex. Mike Dean has a long list of clients and collaborators. Hell, you could be listening to a Mike Dean production right now and not even know it. But if you recognize the sound, those big chord-heavy synth progressions and breakdowns, it's obvious to tell that Mike Dean is light years ahead of his time. Even though a lot of fans still may not be familiar with his name, his musical genius has left an imprint on an entire generation of musical greatness. You can see Mike in action on YouTube, doing what he does best, creating amazing bodies of work, continuously taking us on musical journeys. Just one look at any of these incredible performances is all the evidence you need to know that the legendary Mike Dean is one of the most underrated producers of all time. Stay solid. Sail in the drip, no navy ship. Might wanna take a baby sip. Baby hit me with the 5-layer dip. Pour a 4 and then we take a trip. Pint in my leader, bitch, you know I can feed her. Not to mention blowing on gasoline. Yellow Cinderella, my ballerina. Had a triple cup, tell me how you seen it. Players be craving electrolytes. Took a bow and poured it in a Gatorade. In them all black lax, blocking off the intersection like a motorcade.
Set the triple foam in the freezer and pull it out right as it start to slush. This cup of my lips only, don't give a damn how much that girl try and fuss. Future dirty Sprite was jacking Texas neat. She is just muddy oil over Big P. Pint a liter, sweets packed with Dustin and Keith. Big sipper, no ladle. Gallon of syrup, no maple. Not now, but still stable. Don't fuck with pints with no labels, huh?
Pint in a liter. Woo, woo, woo. Pint in a liter. Woo. Pint in a liter. Sippin' slow, you might seizure. Pint in a liter. Pint in a liter. Pint in a liter.